So, what are the most common challenges that buyers typically face when they start their journey of acquiring a business? Well, the very first one is, how do you find an exact business? So, finding the exact business that they wish to buy. Um, it is challenging. You start off with some ideas in terms of what would make an ideal business for you, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're looking for a bolt-on acquisition, and you might have some certain parameters that you set out. And how do you deal with that? I mean, how do you go about it? Now, the Chelsea corporate approach here is to work very, very closely with our clients, and essentially we build the acquisition criteria around your exact requirements, verify and qualify each opportunity before introducing to buyers. We also build a rapport with seller as well and establish trust. By gaining a good understanding of the business from a commercial and financial perspective also improves the chances of you finding that exact business that you're looking to buy. What is the second most common challenge that buyers face? Well, sellers are valuing the business. This is, we see quite a lot of this from buyers, from clients that we work with, and that typically seems to be the case with those businesses that are online and they are represented by, let's say, most sell side brokers. So, how do you deal with a situation like that? You want to manage sellers' expectations from the outset, and this is something that we do for our clients. We are also heavily involved in making offers and negotiations in order to minimize your risk exposure as well. And also, crucially, by providing comparable evidence of price and deal structure, you're much more likely to bring sellers in line with market valuations by showing examples of the types of deals that were done and the type of structure that was done in that particular sector. But also, you want to explore a variety of deal structures as well in order to obtain and establish a mutual agreement. Making a lowball offer. Now, this can be, you talked about infuriating the buyers with very high expectations in terms of what your business is worth. If you flip that around and you look at this from a seller's perspective, making a lowball offer can basically kill the deal, on that very first kind of serious negotiations that you're having. Why, Ilan, that infuriates sellers of businesses?
So if you're going to go into this process, you need to be fair. You need to look at it from the eyes of a seller just as much as obviously finding the right business for yourself and one that's valued accurately and correctly. So you've got to put yourself in their shoes. If you were a seller, what would you expect from the first offer to be taken seriously? And these really are just some of the points really on that. So making a reasonable offer that will leave enough room for negotiation. Obviously, you're not going to put in your highest offer. I don't even think a seller would expect that. There's always going to be that period of negotiation that takes place. So you want to leave enough room for that discussion and for that negotiation to take place. But at the same time, you don't want to put in an offer that's going to be so low that trying to bridge that gap and making an offer you would accept, leaving 20% margin for negotiation. Well, that's a guidance, isn't it? Really,
Sure.
That's a guidance. So that's the sort of percentage you ought to be considering when putting in your first offer, and then sort of seeing if you can meet them, not just on price but on deal structure as well. And some of those structures that really help get those deals across the line include something called an earnout, which is a performance-based upside, effectively. And I've found that there are more and more sellers these days willing to accept earnout type arrangements because it gets them to where they need to be. They appreciate that, okay, they may want sufficiently more for the business than it's worth.
Number four, sellers that aren't serious. How can we make sure that the people that we are talking to are genuinely interested in selling their business and not wasting your time? What we do, of course, is that we verify the opportunity ahead of introduction and call. We establish how genuine they are and manage the expectations from very outset, and explore if they're willing to share commercial and financial information. Establish also a motive for sale. Is it a retirement? Is it perhaps some health care, health issues, changes in those circumstances, or perhaps they have other business interests that they want to focus on. Managing their own emotions during the acquisition process. This is interesting, and also a very important aspect of it as well. So especially when you are in that initial stage of weighing the opportunities that you have in front of you, it's important that we avoid any prejudging of the business or the individual that you're dealing with, that you have in front of you. You want to keep an open mind about the business and about them and their motivations for sale. Good businesses are always sought after, so you don't want to become too complacent either, and you want to be fairly quick in making a judgment and making a call in terms of your next steps with the business that you have in front of you. And as we mentioned, I think the discussions about price, although they are very, very important, the valuation is very important. The deal structure and the way you structure that to make sure that it works for both parties is really important. Sellers who can't afford to retire, believe it or not, it does happen a lot. So you want to consider alternative deal structures, partial share acquisitions, performance-based, etc., and also offer an attractive remuneration package as well, or bonus structure for an agreed handover. High customer concentration, 80% of turnover comes from just 2 or 3 customers. Per se, I don't think that is such a deal breaker, so to speak. But especially if those customers are fairly large and you can show that they've got agreements in place for a number of years and they're well established and so on. But from buyer's perspective, it just doesn't give us the comfort that we want. And we want to see more diversity in the client base, so that if something happened to one or 2 of them, you've effectively lost vast majority of your turnover and profits. So how do we deal with that? One or 2 things are important here. You can request a 3-year plus framework agreement or written contract, and also you can agree on an annual earnout target to share the risk, i.e. if sales reduce as a result of losing a customer, then year 1, 2 consideration will reduce accordingly. So that's the typical way that we would deal when we structure a deal as well. Number 8, seller isn't flexible on deal structure, right? So wants it all on day one without sharing any of the risk. I think it kind of connects with the previous 2, so offer a good incentive to encourage the seller to be more flexible, but also provide a spreadsheet to show the performance-based upside that can be achieved, so that you have a win-win situation from the deal. Also, number 9, customer relationships are all with the existing owner. This is a challenge, a real challenge that buyers face. And how do we deal with that? Well, you can certainly request a handover meetings with key customers post-sale. You check for change of control clauses with existing contracts. This is something that also the DD looks at, due diligence, and we dealt with this. Also, key customers are to be transitioned to the 2nd-tier management prior to completion. So these are some of the ways that you can deal with when the customer relationships are all or mostly with existing owner. I recognize this is a major kind of challenge that buyers face. Last point, and it's a very interesting point, and interesting challenge that buyers face in the journey of acquiring a business, so dealing with internal resistance to acquisition. So this is something that, Elan, you've faced quite a lot. This is something that buyers also face. So you want to check that all shareholders are in full agreement over the sale of the business. So there's no ambiguity about this whatsoever. You want to also ensure that confidentiality will be maintained throughout the acquisition process, and announcement to employees should be made immediately after the completion. And also, all parties should agree to announce the sale together and at the same time. But also, you want to specify within your offer letter, heads of terms, who will be staying on and who will exit, etc. And also request beforehand that all party meeting to resolve any internal issues or concerns.